thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah, good morning, you guys. It is Friday, March 13th, and today is National Dermatologist Day.
Okay, shout out.
Shout out to the mole removers, you know what I'm saying?
They do a lot more than that, Jason, but you know what? Today also is the day that COVID started 6 years ago.
Thanks for that great...
Which was also a Friday the 13th, so hopefully we're closing whatever nasty-ass loop that was.
Today is Friday the 13th. You're right about that. Holy cow.
It was also Friday the 13th in 2020.
Interesting.
Fun fact for you, you know?
Oh, the conspiracy theorists are going to run wild with that today. I can't wait to watch the internet. Yeah, that's going to be entertaining today. It's also National Jewel Day.
Like the Foolish Games one?
No, Jenny Beth, like jewels, like diamonds, and you know your favorite, cubic zirconians.
Yeah, fuck you.
Easy there.
My bad. Whoopsie.
Rude.
My bad.
Just because you happen to like cubic zirconians, it's not my problem. It's also it's National Coconut Torte Day. And this is definitely not Jenny, maybe Dr. Mark though. It's National Good Samaritan Day.
And now, first of all, I'll have you know.
And it is also National Canine Veterans Day. Shout out to all those bomb sniffing dogs out there.
Hi, Mickey. Bless you.
And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. Dr. T should be joining us anytime. But, you guys, I found this study, and I think it's a whole bunch of BS. Okay, I just want to preface this. I think this is a fake news story, but it is a study. So, I think it's probably like some propaganda. So, Dr. Mark, I look forward to you dispelling this, so to say. But they say that this cannabis study finds that THC can create false memories. This came out of Washington State University, and this is just the general summary. First of all, it says THC doesn't just blur memories, it can create new ones that never happened. In a controlled experiment, cannabis users were much more likely to recall words that were never shown and struggled with tasks like remembering to do something later. Researchers found that THC disrupted many different memory systems at once, and surprisingly moderate doses caused memory problems similar to higher doses, they say. Which I think this is total malarkey, but okay. Well, maybe it is true for some people, maybe it's true for people that have, the stupid gene, because we all know that there is an actual stupid gene. But nonetheless, a new study from Washington State University found that people who consumed THC were more likely to recall words that were never shown to them and had more trouble completing everyday memory tasks, such as remembering to do something later. Published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology, the research provides one of the most detailed examinations to date of how cannabis influences memory. The results indicate that cannabis affects not only simple recall, like remembering a list of words, but also several forms of memory that people rely on throughout the day. These include remembering appointments, keeping track of conversations, and identifying where information originally came from. Researchers were also surprised to see no meaningful differences between participants who consumed 20 milligrams of THC and those who consumed 40 milligrams. These findings suggest that even moderate amounts of THC may significantly interfere with memory, and in a quote they say, "Most previous studies have only looked at one or two types of memory, like recalling list of words," said Carrie Cutler, senior author of the study and an associate professor of psychology at WSU. This is the first study to comprehensively examine many different memory systems at once, and what we found is that acute cannabis intoxication appears to broadly disrupt most of them. To investigate these facts, Cutler and co-author Ryan McLaughlin, an associate professor in the Department of Integrative Physiology and Neuroscience at WSU, recruited 120 regular cannabis users. Participants were randomly assigned to vaporized placebo cannabis and 20 milligrams of THC or 40 milligrams of THC in a double-blind experiment. After consuming the assigned substance, participants completed roughly an hour of memory tests. The assessments measured several types of memory, including verbal, visual, spatial, perspective, source, false, episodic content, and temporal order memory. People who consume cannabis perform significantly worse than those who receive the placebo on most of the tests, and in total, cannabis affected the majority of the memory measures, with significant differences appearing in 15 of the 21 tests. The most pronounced effects were seen in false memory and source memory, which help people accurately recall information and determine where that information came from. In one test, participants listened to lists of related words that were connected by a theme, but the central keyword tying them together was never spoken. Later, individuals that had consumed cannabis were more likely to say they remembered hearing words that had never been presented. In a quote, "I found it was really common for people to come up with words that were never on the list. Sometimes they were related to the theme of the list, and sometimes they were completely unrelated." Participants who used cannabis also had more difficulty identifying where previously learned information originated, and problems with source memory can make it harder to determine whether information came from a trusted source, a conversation, or something encountered online. These kinds of memory distortions could have serious implications in situations where accurate recall is essential. For example, errors in memory or suggestive questioning during eyewitness interviews can influence how events are remembered. The researchers also observed impairments in prospective memory, which is the ability to remember to perform tasks in the future. This type of memory is involved in everyday responsibilities such as taking medication, attending meetings, or stopping at the store on the way home. In a quote, "These are things we rely on consistently in our day-to-day lives. If you have something you need to remember to do later, you probably don't want to be high at the time you need to remember to do it." One form of memory called episodic content memory, which involves recalling personal experiences, did not show a significant effect in this study. Cutler noted that additional research is needed before drawing firm conclusions about that type of memory. And the study comes at a time when cannabis use is becoming increasingly common in states such as Washington. And even though legalization has expanded across North America, many short-term cognitive effects of cannabis remain unclear. And one reason for the limited research is that cannabis is still classified as a Schedule I substance under the federal law, which has historically restricted scientific study. We're living in a state where cannabis use is very common, but there's still a lot we don't know about its acute effects. The goal is to help people make informed decisions about the risks and benefits, she says. Well. I think a lot of that is a lot of malarkey. But I will say this, and even before I've consumed cannabis, I had a problem with this. But when I've been prescribed prescription medication from doctors, I never remember to take it because I don't do it as a general habit in my day-to-day. So I don't think that this is an effect from cannabis. I think this is just an effect from not being overdosed by doctors. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, I mean, compliance to prescription medicine is very low.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes as low as 35, 40%, just above the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not the only one that's not remembering to take their medicines.
Good.
It's pretty hard for folks to do it.
Yeah, I've never been able to do it. Like, I never forget. Like, you're supposed to take one at night, one in the day, or, you know what I'm saying? I always forget. And my mom was like really big about it because she was like, especially if you're on antibiotics, you have to take it all the way through to actually kill it all the way. And she was always big about that. And I was always the worst at remembering to take my antibiotics ever when I was sick when I was little.
Yeah, well, now we've got, thankfully, our smartphones with little alarms on it. So,
see, you know, I don't even use that stuff, Dr. T. I don't want to have to remember to program that. You know, I want to go back to the days where we would just tie a string around our finger and that told us to remember something. That would work much better.
Yeah, I don't want my finger chopped off. I know. Yeah, you want to go back to the old days, but you can't go backwards. Sorry. I mean, we've got to move forward in this life. Well, what I thought was interesting about this was that people misremembered words, so that some people might might not remember what they said to you, or change the story of what actually happened because they remembered it incorrectly. But these are just the acute effects; they're not the chronic effects. So this doesn't permanently affect your memory. It's interesting to study.
In regards with that, Dr. T, I think the cause of that, honestly, is social media. I think that's the actual cause of that, because and I don't think that it's caused by consuming cannabis. You know, some people, because they consume cannabis, may be subject to that more than others. That's a possibility. I'm not opposed to that being a reality, but I think a lot of that is from social media and people just catching these different sound bites, and then that's because it sounds to me like they were like basically playing verbal memory. You remember memory, Dr. T? Yeah. It sounds to me.
Concentration, we call it.
Yeah. It sounded to me how they described in the study that they were like, hey, you know, I said butterfly, and I said effect, and I said, you know, twinkle twinkle little star, and then all of a sudden they thought that they heard the tooth fairy or something.
Yeah. But these guys were proud to dive further into the lack of the acute memory loss world, and really sort of decide what's missing and what's not. I think it's more academic than practical. I think most people who use cannabis know that they forget. They don't mind it. Sometimes maybe forgetting is really what they want to do anyway.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a great point. Dr. Mark, do you have trouble remembering things?
I forget. So, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why cannabis and cannabis products are effective at treating PTSD is because the endocannabinoid system, right, which is maintaining homeostasis in your body, is actually important in being able to forget things. You need to, from an evolutionary perspective, need to be able to remember things that are important to your survival, but you need to be able to forget certain things. And one of the things I would say about this study is that, there's kind of like two aspects of memory, right? There's the encoding of the memory itself, right? Like what you actually heard, but then there's the retrieval of that memory, right? So there's two different aspects. So it's kind of like when you put something into your computer, right? Like you're programming your computer, you're putting information in, but then when you use that software, you're getting the information out. So those are two, right, Dr. T? They're two different biochemical processes, recording the memory and then being able to retrieve the memory. And it's hard to think that THC in particular, whether it's at the psychoactive level or below psychoactive level, is not going to affect either one of those processes, right? So either the recording of the memory or the retrieval of that memory at a later time, right? So the other thing that's very limiting on this particular study, and I'd be interested in what Dr. T thinks about this, is that the mean age of their demographic was really young, 28 years old, right? You always associate memory issue, well, in most cases, right? Isn't memory something that like you typically see issues in older demographics as opposed to like younger people? Now, again, it is part of the whole like PTSD, soldiers who are in their 20s and they see this horrific event in war and then they keep on going through that event. So it does affect younger folks. But Dr. T, wouldn't you think that this would be a more valuable study if they looked at some older patients that maybe, again, or older patients, that recording and that retrieval process of those memories are probably going to be different than like a younger demographic like what they studied here, right?
Yeah, good pickup. I think that younger demographic was intentional, just so that they didn't have in their participants and anyone with cognitive decline. So yeah, I think this study was really, it was more academic and less practical, and that's just another sign that it's just it's more interested in the young person who has an acute memory loss. What's the guy's name from Dazed and Confused? Spicone or yeah, that kind of effect. What's that?
Spicoli.
Spicoli, that's who it was. Yes, the Spicoli effect, let's call it. They're interested in the Spicoli effect.
Interesting.
That was Fast Times at Ridgemont High, wasn't it?
That's right. It was fast. Was it?
Yeah, Mr. Han, what's wrong? What's wrong with a little bit of food on our time, right?
That's right. Orders the pizza. Yeah.
God.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I guess the question is I mean, and certainly like as you're growing up and you're learning more, does the brain kind of run out of hard disk space?
Yeah, your hard drive gets full up. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. We are in a high intensity information data world everywhere, coming out of the computer all the time. Social media, TV's going. We need to pare down and to forget, because all this, we're really wired more for less stimulation.
Interesting. Well, as I told you, I'm glad we have dispelled a lot of this study, and I'm not buying that it's caused from cannabis. I think it's just caused from just being a human being. But on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
as bad as Democrats.
The backstabbing rhino Republicans.
President Trump has fought and delivered, but liberal young Kim is a Trump hater. Kim voted to censure President Trump, but voted against censoring Adam Schiff.
I don't work for President Trump. I will oppose him in the strongest terms. I'm not running for the party of Trump.
Republicans proudly stand with President Trump, but not Trump-hating liberal young Kim. Americans for Security is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So we are back, and man, I have another interesting study for you guys. This one I don't think is, like the last one. Let's just say that.
Are there character voices in it? Because gosh, I hope not. I'd like to remember a time before I knew what your voice sounded like when you tried to impersonate others.
Well, you know what? I don't really care, Jenny Beth. And if there is, then you know what? You're gonna get it. It just is what
then
it
I'm
is.
gonna do it slowly and like this, and it's gonna put us to sleep.
Cannabis essential oil reduces pain and nerve damage in multiple sclerosis models. That's right. A study published recently by the Journal of Phytomedicine found that a non-psychotropic cannabis essential oil reduced pain, improved mobility, and eased anxiety and depression-like symptoms in an animal model of multiple sclerosis, with researchers saying the effects appear to be driven by the CB2 receptor. That's right. The study was conducted by researchers from the University of Florence and the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia in Italy. It examined the therapeutic potential of cannabis essential oil in mice with experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis. Encephalomyelitis. Thank you, Dr. Mark. A widely used model for studying multiple sclerosis. Researchers found that the oil's most abundant compounds were that funny little B, caryophyllene, B, as it is a B, caryophyllene,
beta caryophyllene.
Yep, beta caryophyllene.
Beta.
Oh, that's a beta. So I should pronounce it as beta. They should just spell it out.
Beta caryophyllene.
Beta
alpha humulene and caryophyllene oxide. Continue.
All right. When administered intrinsically, the essential oil significantly reduced both thermal and mechanical hypersensitivity while also improving motor function. The treatment also produced antidepressant and anti-oxic-like effects in the mice, suggesting benefits that went beyond pain relief alone. The findings indicate the oil may also help protect nerve tissue, and researchers reported that treatment increased markers linked to myelin preservation while reducing tissue damage and inflammation in the spinal cord and hippocampus. The oil also appeared to shift immune activity in a favorable direction by reducing pro-inflammatory microglia, restoring the balance between microglia. All right. Restoring the balance between IL-17 and IL-10 and increasing expression of markers associated with anti-inflammatory response. According to the study, the essential oil markedly increased CB2 receptor expression in both the animal model and in the stimulated immune cells, and its protective effects were blocked by a CB2 antagonist, but not by a CB1 blocker, indicating the benefits were specifically mediated through CB2 rather than the receptor tied to cannabis's intoxicating effects. Researchers conclude that intransil cannabis essential oil may help alleviate multiple sclerosis-related symptoms and comorbidities by reducing neuroinflammation and demyelination through a CB2-dependent mechanism, while the results are preclinical and will need to be confirmed in human studies. They add to growing evidence that cannabis compounds other than THC and CBD may also hold medical potential, you guys. Well, you know, the first three letters in potential is POT, and what do y'all have to say about this?
Intranasal, Jason, intranasal.
Intranasal. Well, thank you, Dr. Mark, for the assistance with those words, that wordsmithing over there.
So is anybody selling a terpene nose spray? I've seen terpene only vape carts. I haven't seen terpene only nasal sprays. Have you guys seen any of that? Oh, do you have something, Mark?
Are you there? Are you there, Dr. Mark?
There it
What
is.
is that? What is that?
Terpene nasal
So
spray.
this is a.
Oh, you're kidding.
It's called terpene nasal spray.
Awesome. What are the terpenes?
Well, let's see what they say in here. It's banana runts. So I don't know what that means.
It's fascinating. You just happen to have that on your desk.
Proprietary botanical blend. Yeah, there's rosemary tincture and a few other things in here, but for the most part, yeah, they do sell these things.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that cannabinoids are potentiated by terpenes, right? And terpenes is part of the entourage effect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, this is really super interesting because, again, what they're talking about is myelination of the microglial cells. So glial cells are important cells in the brain. And let's see, I'm trying to break this down. So there's like neurons, but then there's the microglial cells. And so microglial cells are kind of like stem cells in the brain. I think they can kind of divide and make different structures within the brain that are helpful in different
I think they're closer to macrophages.
That's right.
They're more like part of the brain inflammatory system. Or,
Interesting.
Right. And Dr. T, do you understand the pathophysiology of ALS and how ALS affects the brain and whether or not, again, these things are acting on cannabinoid receptors, I would assume, and I would assume that anything that the cannabinoids would do, or it's trying to maintain homeostasis in the brain. So how is that related again to the pathophysiology of ALS, which I'm not versed on at all?
I don't know specifically. I know ALS has to do with inflammation. And so likely activates the microglial, which are part of the immune system, and causes scarring. I don't really know the exact pathophysiology of ALS. Was this about ALS or MS?
Multiple sclerosis, MS.
Oh, MS. Okay.
I guess I meant that.
But it's the same thing. It's both, inflammation and trying to reduce inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of it, or part of every pathophysiology. It's just always there. So anyway, inflammation, trying to reduce inflammation because that's what MS is, inflammation of the cells around the nerves.
I'm pretty aware of this group. In fact, Frederica, who's the lead author on this paper, Frederica Pilati, is chairing the session at the American Chemical Society that I'm speaking at next week. So she and this group in Italy are very, very active at exploring how these compounds affect the central nervous system. So I got to dig into this paper a little bit more.
Nice.
But again, she's chairing a session that I'm speaking at next week. So I'm really interested in this work and need to learn a little bit more about it. But I guess, again, just going back to the disease itself, I meant multiple sclerosis when I said ALS. But it's interesting that you say that ALS and multiple sclerosis are related. And so with multiple sclerosis, again, is this something that we know that targeting the endocannabinoid system and the CB1 and CB2 receptors are useful at developing useful therapeutics to treat MS?
No, I don't think there's any evidence of that. I mean, maybe specifically targeting the CB2 receptor, which is more on the immune system. But for MS, people really report benefit, symptom improvement benefit, less anxiety, less sleep, more movement sometimes. So maybe that has to do with reducing inflammation for MS. So,
Well, and this demyelination, which you mentioned in the paper, right, is kind of like the removal of the am I saying the name right?
The easiest way to explain it is think about the electrical wires, and an electrical wire has that plastic coating around it.
Yep.
Right,
Well,
that's the myelination, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the myelination is basically the insulator that's around the conductive part of the neuron where electrical energy is being passed, right?
Perfect.
Interesting.
Is that right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm learning here.
I love it.
Can you guys
You're
smell the
remembering
learning?
some old classes.
I love this. I love this.
I'm learning a lot here. So let me ask something, Dr. T. So if you're using cannabinoids, are you less likely to experience MS? Like, are cannabinoids kind of like a way of keeping your brain free of things like MS and ALS?
There's no proof of that. It could be a good hypothesis. I mean, if you want to sort of test that, we'd have to look at a population of cannabis users and a population of non-cannabis users to see if there's any difference in the incidence or prevalence of MS. I mean, I think we could find out pretty easily. I don't think. I don't know. I wouldn't guess.
Well,
yeah.
Multiple sclerosis isn't something that you can catch like a you can't catch a cold.
It's an autoimmune condition.
Genetic predisposition to.
No, there might be some environmental reasons. Nobody really knows why you get it, why you start to lose your insulation, and you lose it in spots, right? And that's because your immune system attacks a certain spot. And then that spot might get better, but then it attacks a different spot. So that's why you tend to have moving symptoms with it too.
Interesting.
But reduce. Why is your body attacking itself and wearing out your insulation? Nobody really knows. It could be an environmental incident. There may be some genetic. Nothing is ever as simple as just genetic, though, or mostly genetic. There's usually some environmental or epigenetic effects too.
Interesting. So you're saying that it could be caused by chemtrails?
Oh my God.
That's what you're saying. I wouldn't say no. I would just say, yeah, let's
it's possible. It's possible.
Find out.
I smell an NIH grant coming up as soon as we get to Schedule 3, you guys.
You can't be against chemtrails and against it because chemtrails are trying to fix the environmental problems that we have from global warming. So either we stop the problems from global warming, then we won't have to do the chemtrails, or we're doing the chemtrails trying to fix the problems that we've caused over all these years.
Well, in order to view it from that perspective, you have to believe that global warming is a real thing.
Jason, we're not going to go down that path right now.
I'm just saying. I understand that. I'm just making my statement. Just making my statement.
Put the train back on the tracks.
Yeah, it's just
as we're going through a heat wave here in unprecedented heat wave here in California.
I mean, it's the start of spring. It gets warm. It gets nice out. You know what I mean? Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the sun.
I love the heat. Bring it on.
You know what's funny is I was actually I actually met the gentleman that flies the planes that does a lot of the cloud seeding, and he's been on a number of different podcasts talking about this, and I actually had a really good in-depth conversation with him last night. So it was very, very, very intriguing with what they use and whatnot. And a lot of it is just like iodine based. And so it was very, very, very interesting. But nonetheless, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole or that chem trail, so to say, Jenny Beth, and we're going to roll right into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Rescheduling cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump. for delivering on another America First promise.
Yes, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And please make sure that you are subscribing to us on X and Rumble, as those are the two most stable platforms on the metaverse. And please join us this Sunday at 2 p.m. outside of Mann's Chinese Theater, Dolby Theater, that whole little strip on Hollywood Boulevard, as we join Catalyst and we protest these pedophiles in Hollywood.
Under President Trump, America is back. Trump's delivered the largest tax cut in history, putting more money in our pockets and restored America's economic dominance. Promises made, promises kept. Now it's time to fulfill another promise from President Trump and reschedule cannabis, which supports over 400,000 jobs and creates billions of dollars in economic growth. Reschedule cannabis and stack another win, Mr. President. America First Agriculture Action Inc. is responsible for the contents of this advertising.
Oh, and we are back. Jenny Beth, did you want to introduce Dr. Mark today, or you want me to? Oh, look, I caught her off guard.
Oh man,
We haven't heard much from you today, Jenny Beth.
That's fine. Yeah, because unlike you, Jason, I try not to speak with people that know more about something than I do, are speaking. But hey,
I like to ask questions.
That's the difference, you know. All right, coming questions. Up next. Oh man, sorry. Our resident chemistry expert, Grateful Dead head, Dr. Mark in the Dark Scialdone.
Oh.
Thank you, Jenny. Jenny, good to see you again. It's been a minute, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah. It has.
Great to have you back on.
Spring has children.
All right. So, hey, a lot of good stories so far, Jason. So, yeah I like this theme of what we're talking about. So today, my story comes from... wait, this is the original article. Let's see, where does it actually come from? Okay, my story today comes from Marijuana Herald, Anthony Martinelli, and the story is titled "A Study Where Marijuana Flower Shows Neuroprotective and Pain-Relieving Effects in Alzheimer Model." So a study published in the Frontiers of Pharmacology found that marijuana flower, right, not tinctures, this is interesting, marijuana flower produced strong pain-relieving and neuroprotective effects in an animal model designed to mimic both Alzheimer's-related cognitive impairment and chronic neuropathic pain. The researchers used Cannabis medium floss, whatever that is, some kind of branded flower. So it's an EU GMP certified marijuana flower containing 15.6, not 15.7, and not 15.2, 15.6% THC and less than 1% CBD to examine whether it could be used to address multiple biological pathways involved in both conditions, meaning Alzheimer's-related cognitive impairment and chronic neuropathic pain. So the study used rats with scopolamine-induced transient cognitive impairment. So that's scopolamine is scopolamine is actually a medication that's used for motion sickness, right, Dr. T? I think you give it
right.
People who get car sick or seasick. So scopolamine induces this this transient cognitive impairment that I guess they can measure the effectiveness of the treatment. And they did chronic neuropathic pain caused by unilateral sciatic nerve ligation. That's where they remove a nerve, which gotta hurt, right? So let's see. The results showed that the cannabis flower produced robust, time-dependent analgesic effects in thermal pain tests. Thermal pain test they used is something called a tail flick test, and that's where they put a heat source next to the tail of the rat, and if they could feel the heat, they basically move away. It's just a way of basically responding in a laboratory test that measures how well they can tolerate pain. So the strongest response was seen when marijuana treatment was combined with donepezil and tramadol. So donepezil is it's a drug that's used. It's a reversible acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. Acetylcholine, Dr. T will tell you, is a neurotransmitter, and the esterase is basically something that cleaves the acetyl group from acetylcholine, and so it makes the active form of the neurotransmitter. So this compound, this donepezil, is basically acting as an inhibitor of that enzyme. The other thing they combined it with was something called tramadol, and tramadol is a serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, and it's used to treat pain. So they're basically adding these two things in a cocktail to this formulation. And what they're finding is that when they combine this EU GMP certified marijuana flower with this donepezil and tramadol, the combination produced significantly longer pain reduction response than tramadol alone. So there's something that's happening there synergistically with the combination of all those. So researchers noticed that the marijuana treatment only had minimal impact on mechanical sensitivity, suggesting that its effects were more pronounced in certain types of pain. So tissue analyses also found substantial neuroprotective effects. According to the study, the cannabis flower reduced activation of markers tied to neuroinflammation and cell death. That includes tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukin 6, which again are hallmark cytokines that are produced. So this also includes GFAP and IBA1, capsase 3, and I already mentioned interleukin 6. It also helps preserve hippocampal neuronal integrity and peripheral nerve structure. The study also found that marijuana alone or in combination with these drugs produced the most pronounced protective effects compared to tramadol itself. So researchers say that indicate that the cannabis may have a potential as an adjunct therapy for dementia patients who also experience chronic neuropathic pain. They also note that additional research is needed to better understand the underlying mechanisms and assess long-term efficacy. Well, it's a very interesting study. You know, when I first looked at this paper, first of all, it's done in Romania, okay? Tells you that, you know, the U.S. needs to catch up with Romania, okay? But, you know, I found it very interesting because I'm looking at this and I'm trying to say, well, did the rats smoke this flower? Yeah. So they're claiming that the benefit is coming from flower. So I would take it that they probably would take the flower, right, Jean, make an extract of the flower, and it's the extract that they would administer to these rats. It doesn't look like it's that at all. I think they put a sham in there so that they did operation on these rats to put a sham, which is kind of like a way of administering stuff into their peritoneal cavity. I think they were just putting whole flower inside of these rats. They weren't smoking it. They weren't drinking it. As far as I can tell from reading the paper, and I've read it now a couple times now, I can't see where they're making an extract. They're just putting whole flowers. So dried cannabis influences were mechanically ground to a powder and then passed through a mesh screen, and the resultant powder was basically suspended in carboxymethylcellulose, which is just a solution, and then they just gave that solution right to the rats. So Jean,
Did they decarb the flower before?
No. And in fact, that's a great question, Dr. T. So they did not decarb the flower. And what they did when they were following up and doing analyses of the blood is, they weren't really seeing. So they call this flower 15% THC, but we all know that the flower doesn't make THC, it makes THCA. And that's exactly what they found here. So let me read a little bit from this paper. So they say the absence of behavioral and cognitive alterations in these chronic studies can be explained by the pharmacokinetic profile of the compound. Psychoactive THC remains undetectable in serum. Let me repeat that. They don't see THC in serum or the blood, right? But it's largely replaced by tetrahydrocannabinolic acid, right? Which is not psychoactive, right, Dr. T? If you have THCA in the blood, you're not going to feel psychoactivity, but it has a marked reduced blood-brain barrier permeability, so it's not necessarily going to make it to the CB1 receptors in the brain, which is where psychoactivity happens, right? But what they do know, and they talk about this, is that THCA, we've talked about this, John, right? The cannabinoid acids have their own pharmacology, right? They don't hit the CB1, CB2 receptors. They hit TRPV1, TPAR gamma, right? We've talked about some of this, right?
Right.
It hits COX-2. So again, by putting whole cannabis, they're not even juicing it, Dr. T. They're grinding it down to a powder and injecting it right into the rats.
Bro, that is lit.
I remember. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Please, Dr. T.
Ahead.
Oh, I remember talking to Dr. Jeff Hergenrather, when I first started this is a couple of decades ago. I met him up at his farm in Sebastopol. And we were discussing potentially doing studies, and he was telling me about a patient who just ground up his flower, didn't decarb it, put it in capsules, and that's how he treated his chronic pain. And he would have a couple capsules a day, and that worked for him. And then we've since discovered that the acid components may have even more anti-inflammatory and beneficial effects.
Analgesic properties. It's a better THCA is a better analgesic than THC. Now that doesn't say that THC can help with pain, because maybe you get a double punch, right? Because the THCA is acting on its own receptors, and the THC acts on different receptors, and combined, the patient is going to feel, both effects.
It's like a tag team.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah. But isn't that crazy, Jason?
They
ground up the flower.
I know.
And injected it right into the rats.
They're just like mainlining the rats.
Why didn't they just hotbox the container?
Well, because
that's what I was thinking. They were doing it first.
Because there's no such thing as secondhand smoke, Jenny Beth.
It's hard to control who's going to breathe more of the hot box or less. They wanted to get more precise.
Oh man. Doctors, Leah Patrick has a question. She wants to know your guys' thoughts on mebendazole.
Mebendazole.
Yes, mebendazole.
What do you mean, our thoughts?
I don't know. That's what she says. Thoughts on mebendazole, please. That's what she says.
Send me an email.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Leah
that's a longer conversation.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Jenny Beth, do you have any thoughts on this, Jenny?
I think that we are terribly behind, Jason. So.
Oh, look at you. Well, interesting study, Dr. Mark. Very, very fascinating. I'm really glad that you were able to cover this today.
Thanks for bringing it to my attention, Jason.
Yeah,
I learned a lot by reading this.
Oh man, we love that. Developing wrinkles in the brain all day, every day, baby. I know that.
Right, but maybe again, like the take-home message here is that, man, you could smoke it. You could drink it.
Yep.
Now you could grind it and mainline it.
Yeah. Hey, man, there's new delivery systems coming up daily. Dr. Mark just inventing new ways to consume cannabis.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't invent anything. I'm just relaying the news,
cannabis,
man.
the cannabis mainline. And on that, we're going to mainline to our last commercial, and we are going to be right back.
As bad as Democrats,
The backstabbing rhino Republicans.
President Trump has fought and delivered. But liberal young Kim is a Trump hater. Kim voted to censure President Trump, but voted against censoring Adam Schiff.
I don't work for President Trump. I will oppose him in the strongest terms. I'm not running for the party of Trump.
Republicans proudly stand with President Trump, but not Trump-hating liberal young Kim. Americans for Security is responsible for the content of this advertising.
A lot of people doing that, myself, Dr. T. So,
but when you eat it, it goes into your stomach and it's going to undergo digestion, and then it's going to go liver.
yeah,
So it's different than just mainlining that shit.
that's definitely right. Speaking of mainlining, we're going to mainline right over to Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their life back on track after they've been victims of the track. It is none other than America's sweetheart with great eye rolls. It is Jenny Beth Dills.
Yep. I used to get in trouble in high school for rolling my eyes, and I didn't even know I was doing it, but I for sure was.
I totally can see you doing that. I could, yeah.
All right, so home state story. Georgia lawmakers are moving to expand access to the state's medical cannabis program. The Georgia House has passed a bill designed to make it easier for patients to participate in the program and obtain cannabis products legally. The measure received board bipartisan support and is part of an ongoing effort by lawmakers to modernize the state's medical cannabis system. Under the proposal, more medical conditions could qualify patients for a medical cannabis card, and the amount of cannabis a registered patient is allowed to possess would increase. The bill would also allow patients to use vaporized cannabis products rather than limiting them to mostly to low THC oils. Supporters say the changes are needed because Georgia's current program has been difficult for many patients to access despite cannabis being legal for certain medical uses. The legislation aims to reduce those barriers and expand treatment options for people with serious health conditions. The bill now heads to the Georgia Senate as lawmakers continue debating how far the state should go in expanding its medical cannabis program. So good news, because Georgia's program right now sucks. In fact, I wouldn't even consider they really have one. But hey, something's better than nothing, but not really what Georgia has right now. So any more access for patients is amazing, and maybe I can, one day actually do something in my home state legally this time. Going back
Georgia's your home state?
I'm from Georgia.
She's a peach. She's a peach, Dr. T. She's a peach.
And you remember our Dr. Felicia Dawson? She used to be on the show every once in a while. She's in Georgia right now too, fighting for their patients right out there.
Oh, nice.
Moved to 3.
Very nice. Yeah, it's definitely a backward state, sadly.
Yes, that is for sure. That is for sure, without a doubt. I mean, but they're still not allowing for whole plant medicine, or as far as flower, right, Jenny? They're still in this bill. It's not saying, hey, we're going to allow you to sell flower.
I didn't read the specifics, but vaporized cannabis is something.
Vaporized cannabis, interesting. I wonder if it'll be.
They can get tinctures right now, like really low dose tinctures.
Yeah, but vaporized cannabis, I mean, it's they sell flower in like Puerto Rico, but they say that you have to vaporize it, that you're not allowed to smoke it, but they still allow for the sale of flower, but you have to tell them that you're going to vaporize it. You can't tell them that you're going to smoke it. So
well, I mean, there's also like vapor pods that are pre-packed fresh flower pods that go into a vaporization device.
Lame.
You know what's lame? Not letting people get access to cannabis. So
I agree with that.
We're moving in the right direction, at least.
I'm not. Any thoughts?
I wonder what the hemp industry is doing out there, because sometimes in these states, the hemp industry is really like in North Carolina, it's all hemp.
Yeah.
THCA,
Georgia is very similar. They got a very booming hemp market out there.
Oh, okay. So people are getting their flower.
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah, they got big THC sales going on out there in Georgia.
Than state.
It's like it's more the smoke shop. kind of varietal of those weird boo-boo things that maybe this, maybe that, maybe something else. But also, trap hard.
Yeah, trap harder.
It depends. Sometimes you get really conscientious trappers, and sometimes you get people selling you like, I don't know, Delta 8 or whatever, HHC or all that.
I'll have you know now that we're very safely outside the statute of limitations. I grew and sold very good, clean cannabis in Georgia for years.
Oh, look at she was
one of the ones.
Yeah, she was one of those conscious trappers, Dr. T. Mm-hmm.
Yes, conscientious trapper sounds like a good,
so cute
name of a band, right?
Oh man, maybe a little jam band, huh, Dr. Mark?
Why not?
Oh man.
I love that OG Grandma likes my kitchen better than Kim Rivers' kitchen table.
That's cute. That's cute. Well, I have one last final story for you guys today, and it's another study. Because I think this is going to be, and I think we've been hitting on a theme of memory today overall. And we'll see how much of the story Jenny can remember, because there was a study that says that marijuana use not linked to cognitive decline or dementia risk in older adults. Look at that, you guys. A new study published by BMJ Mental Health and conducted by researchers from Yale University School of Medicine and the University of Oxford found no evidence that marijuana use is associated with faster cognitive decline or a higher risk of dementia in older adults. Researchers examined data from two large cohorts, the UK Biobank and the US Million Veteran Program, to explore how marijuana use may relate to cognitive performance and dementia risk later in life. The study looked at multiple areas of cognition, including memory, reasoning, and processing speed, while also using Mendelian randomization to test whether any apparent associations might be causal. In the UK Biobank portion of the study, marijuana users showed slightly better performance at baseline on tests of numeric memory and fluid intelligence, but those differences did not hold up when researchers looked at how cognition changed over time. According to the study, no significant differences were observed in longitudinal cognitive change. In the Million Veteran Program, researchers also found that cannabis use disorder was not significantly associated with incident all-cause dementia. The study's conclusion was direct, stating that cannabis use was not linked to longitudinal cognitive decline or dementia risk. And researchers added that within the limits of these cohorts, we found no evidence that cannabis use contributes substantially to cognitive aging or dementia risk in older adults. Great news for seniors. The findings are notable given the growing use of marijuana among older adults for both medical and adult use purposes, and researchers said previous studies have often been limited by small sample sizes or cross-sectional designs, making it harder to determine whether marijuana itself plays a meaningful role in long-term cognitive outcomes. But importantly, the authors said the modestly better baseline scores seen among some users were likely not caused by marijuana itself. Instead, they pointed to factors such as education, socioeconomic status, and other confounding variables as more likely explanations. Look at that, you guys. We're ending this show on a good news, and guess what? Cannabis doesn't necessarily cause dementia like all these prohibitionists like to say all the time. I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this.
Well, yeah, it's a neuroprotectant, Jason. And I think that I saw what you did there. You tried to start the show and end the show with conflicting stories to kind of prove your point in the first one. But the difference is we're looking at cognitive decline in an older population, and we're looking at, whoops, I forgot what I came in this room for in a younger population. So try as you might.
Hey, I did it.
Whoopsie.
I did it, Jenny Beth. I did it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't just try as I might. I did.
You sound like Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's rude.
You're both from California.
Rude. It's rude. Very rude. Whatever.
You stay. Too. You're from her hometown, right? No.
I mean, I don't know necessarily from her hometown, but yeah, I am from the Bay Area originally. Yes, that is correct.
Same side of the bay.
Yeah, same side. I think you could probably say that. Yeah, she's originally from Oakland, right?
Yeah, you guys are almost like twins.
Literally, I was thinking the same thing.
I'd say Jenny looks far closer to Kamala than myself, but okay.
Oh, I completely disagree. But I also, when she was speaking gypsy curses, that was racist, Jason. That's because I'm a black woman.
No, it's just because you're a woman. I don't know why I had to throw extra on that. Any thoughts on this, Dr. Mark?
No. I'm just happy to see Jenny back.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. He remembers what you look like. Look at that. Cannabis.
Yeah, now if we can only get Jesse back, we'd have a full...
Oh, Jesse will be back right after 420.
Okay, so we'll have Jesse and Jenny on the same...
Yep. It'll be JB cubed at that time because we're all three JBs.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Look at that. Fascinating.
All right.
Easy there, Jenny. Easy there.
Thank you all.
Easy there. And thank you all for joining us for High at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Gabriel. They're somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.